evening and welcome to Current Camera. I'm Anthony Fowler. Tonight's episode is a continuation, is part 2 of the Sebastian Linden issue. Over the last day I've been collecting interviews, and I was going to put them out bit by bit. But now that's not going to happen. We're going to bring it out in one whole issue. But there has been a couple of events that have happened since the first edition came out, and since some of the interviews in this part have been recorded. The president of Octavia, Mr. Peter Bralesford, who is also the owner of the MicroWiki site, has unconditionally unbanned Sebastian Linden. So the views in this are now could be considered historical in a way. So that's just a general disclaimer on that. The views contained henceforth are not the views of any respective government, but the people giving them. With that, we're just going to roll from interview to interview without any break, because we just cannot make a bunch of 15-minute videos when we can make an hour one. So sit back, enjoy, put a cuppa on. Yeah, thanks. You're the current leader of the opposition in Zealandia, and of course, the Siroccan Premier.
Correct.
And basically, I'm going to ask you about your views on Sebastian Linden or Frederick Bayer, whichever name floats your boat.
I guess Fred's the easiest.
First of all, I'll ask you about. What are your opinions on Section 6 of Chapter 8 of the Zealandian Constitution?
I don't actually think I've got a copy of the Constitution. Hang on.
Do you want me to basically tell you what it is?
Yes, please.
Basically, it bans the members of the Pristinian, or the former Eleutherian, now Pristinian, royal family from entering the Kingdom of Zealandia.
Oh, right, that one. I completely agree with it. I mean, look what Fred did to Zealandia while he was in power. Completely turned the nation upside down. And after all, we went to war to try and fix it up. He decided he was going to get smart about it. We de-recognised you were thrown out of Taspac and became the laughing stock of the community, thanks to him. So it's only fair that he should be banned from having anything to do with Zealandia from now on.
In terms of the recent allegations by the NEMCAV president, Marka Mahansk, on the community bullying Fred, what do you say to that?
Well, I have to say that I haven't been here in the really long time that he was doing and Sophie Meyer and all that sort of thing. But in the short time I've been in the community, he's already built himself up a massive track record. And to be honest, I think he's really brought it on himself because he was given so many chances and he just kept blowing them. So really, he's brought this on himself. The rest of the community hates him for what he did. We're not just hating him because he's some guy. We're hating him on him because he's deserved it, basically.
I gather you support a total MicroWiki ban on him.
Yep.
If there was to be a compromise between him and the MicroWiki admins, what would be your suggestions with that? Besides, don't compromise.
If there was going to be a compromise, don't let him edit the articles. And that I'm not so sure he should be allowed in there at all. He should be able to have read-only access. He should be able to read it, but not register an account or edit on the wiki.
What about the forum?
The same goes there as well. He's a troublemaker on the forum too.
As we've as as I suppose we have seen when he first was on there.
I don't really support letting him back into the community at all. But if there's going to be a compromise, let him be able to see what's going on, but don't let him contribute to it.
In terms of the Sorokhan Zealandian War, um, which was primarily started by him, what would you have to say to the Nemcav Federation in terms of watch your back per se?
But look what happened. How long was he in power in Zealandia?
From December 27 through to February 21.
Yeah, well, it was over January that things started going south, remember? Because Zealandia and Soroko were really close, and then he started acting up, and we started getting fed up with him. And you said that you wanted him gone, and we worked together to try and get rid of him. I tried to put the new constitution in, and he said, no, it's not valid, doesn't work, don't want to know you. So I've just got this feeling that, like, you've got the power in Zealandia at the moment, and Markham Hanks has got the power in the UK here. I've just got this feeling that he's sort of going to worm his way up the echelons of the MKO government and try and take on the top job for himself. So if I were Markham Hanks, I'd be watching out, because he has got a track record of worming his way around and getting what he wants.
Now, he has accused you of not knowing anything about Zealandia and the situations like the coup that he attempted a few weeks ago, and the motion of no confidence that brought down the Profusely government. What do you have to say to that?
Well, the thing about not knowing much about Zealandia, I'm not terribly familiar with the way that the parliamentary system works, because we work on a vastly different system. But I've sort of got a loose understanding. But as I said, he has got a habit of manipulating things to his own advantage, and I think that's how Mr. Pachowski found his job in jeopardy.
He has recently asked me to deny or to deny the, and we're like,
Okay,
welcome, Mr. First Minister, to current camera.
But suppose I could also be taking this interview as First Minister of Zealandia, as well as President of the Republic of Tiana, soon to be Democratic People's Republic of Tiana. I suppose questions about either would be welcome.
Mr. President, Mr. First Minister.
Goes well together. Mr. President, First Minister.
You just need a Your Excellency.
That works as well.
Basically, what the purpose of this part of current camera is to gather interviews with regards to the von Linden issue and people's views on it.
Yes, and I'm just going to note that in the Micropolitan, the most prominent person to oppose von Linden's ban was William Sorgel, who, if you'll notice, Mark was arguing against bullying, and Will is a prominent proponent of bullying, as Lethler, who's obviously hated among the whole community, was noted for generally bullying people, and Will has completely stuck up for this view, saying that for those who don't follow the usual way of handling things, that's the way to take care of them, according to Will Sorgel, which I find to be a terrible view, which is just a way to drive people away from the community. It's not a friendly environment for new people.
Your views on the banning, you're not for a full ban, but are not for a full unban either, are you?
At the moment, I'm not sure. It's Frederick himself. He may be ready, maybe not. Either way, he would be good for the wiki. He doesn't really deserve to be fully banned. I can understand, since Peter owns the site and all, being banned from the forums, but the wiki, at least, he should definitely be unbanned from immediately.
Now, I don't know if you're aware, Daniel Anderson, the leader of the opposition and premier of Sirocco, has raised in his interview, which you haven't seen yet, the issue of the Syro-Zealandian War, and of course the recent coup d'etat attempt, and of course the Wachowski um, sacking.
Now, as for all of these, while they are examples of Frederick, being rather, how would I say this, a nuisance to Zealandia and Sirocco, at the same time, that's internal affairs. You can't really ban someone for the foreign affairs of a nation, because while Frederick did make mistakes in Zealandia and was definitely a complete arsehole during most of that time, you have to remember that in foreign affairs, he isn't really that bad of a person. He's actually very pleasant when you talk to him. I mean, of course, the general alias of Sebastian von Linden can at times be unpleasant, but if you look at others in the community, such as Will Sorgel, even a decent amount of the community, even Aldrich Lucas, who, while I do think is a very good admin, a decent amount of people in the community, I'd say at least half are more unpleasant than Frederick has ever been. And over an internal affair, I can understand why people would be pissed at him, but it's not a reason for a ban from the site itself.
That's completely thrown me. What are your views on Chapter 8, Section 6 of the Zealandian Constitution?
This bans Frederick from Zealandia, am I right?
Yes.
I completely agree with that. Frederick is not fit for Zealandia. He's just... The way Zealandia is structured is just not a good system for Frederick to be in. I don't know if it can... It doesn't really it doesn't reflect on him as a person, but at the same time, he's just not good for Zealandia. However, the community at large is another issue entirely.
As you have just mentioned before, the issue of bullying has come up quite a number of times. In the past, it can be said that uh, Mr. Linden, in the guise of and Sophie Myers and Mark Dresner and Simon Ernest, I can't think of any more that he's had, bullied.
I wasn't in the community at that time, so I can't make too much of a comment on that. But that was far in the past, and that wasn't just before this ban. This ban had nothing to do with that. And he's proven that under none of those aliases, and just as himself, he isn't quite as bad. Whereas you could look at some others in the community who are still even worse than that, if maybe not as bad or worse. Regardless, it's a double standard. While I do like most of the administration, all of the admins, I believe, are doing a fantastic job. I have to say that there is a double standard as for bans at the moment. Some, having a closer relationship with the admins, have actively engaged in much worse behavior. In Mr. Sorgel's case, he's actively been a proponent of it. However, he hasn't been banned. However, saying that Frederick is banned for this when he has talked against it is completely ridiculous.
So in terms, so you do support, um, the NEMCAV president and former Zealandian Attorney General.
Um,
Mahama Hunt
Yes.
has said.
Temporary, or not temporary, how would you say this? Partial unbanning only on the wiki.
So like a parole per se.
Yes, if he can function well on the wiki, then possibly an eventual forum unban. If he demands it. If you notice, Frederick has even said himself he doesn't really care about a forum unban. He just wants to edit his articles, which I entirely understand. He's obviously dedicated to it. He started his own damn wiki just so he could edit his own articles, but it hasn't gone so well over there as it hasn't been active. He is a very active user. I mean, he's on Skype far more than most others I've seen. He'd obviously be very active on the wiki, and it'd just be good for the community in general.
Do you have any words, anything else you'd like to say on that subject?
On that subject, well, yes, Frederick, while people paint him out to be a terrible, evil, demonic person, he's better than most of the community that we have so far. Overall, it's just ridiculous to have him banned in comparison to some others in the community right now.
Right. Thank you for your time.
Okay, and thank you, Your Majesty.
To the show.
Thank you very much.
Your recent address, it raised the issue of bullying, which a number of people have criticised. And with regards to that, how would you rebut those claims?
Well, I didn't make the claim of bullying lightly because it's a fairly serious deal that most people in the community would know about in one way or another. So it's not something I said lightly, but I also won't take it back because, excluding people from something without reason of safety or, any good reason, it's tantamount to bullying because it's not fair, and it's excluding Fred from doing what he does best without any really good reason.
Because I did have a bunch of questions written down for you,
Don't worry about it.
but the cat went and did stuff to it.
Oh, there's no hurry, so take your time.
In terms of Fred's past involvement in Zealandian politics, do you think that had any bearing on his ban?
I think it may have had an impact on his greater appeal to people. I think that his actions were quite radical in one way or another, and I think he created a political environment, or he was in a political environment which he had adversaries, and I think it didn't contribute to his ban, but there was definitely a politically motivated side to his ban, in my personal opinion. That's not the opinion of the whole federation or government. That's just my opinion.
I don't know if you've read Chapter 8, Section 6 of the Zealandian Constitution, which regards Frederick. But if you haven't, it basically states that he is persona non grata. There is much debate at the moment in the law thing as to removing that. Would you urge the legislators of Zealandia to consider removing that?
I would think it would be beneficial to everybody involved if it was removed. But I mean, I won't tell people in Zealandia what to do. From the point of view of making an open community, I think anything that enshrined the banning of a person from a nation in law
shouldn't exist. That's what I personally feel. So I think it'd be better for an open, inclusive Gambia if, I mean, it is the right of all nations to, I mean, it can't reject citizenship. Any nation can, should it feel necessary, feel that it is necessary, but it shouldn't be instructed in law, no matter how bad the impact a person may have had on like a nation. Not just speaking of Fred, is he not anybody anywhere.
As you know, Frederick recently got unrestricted rights to access and edit both the wiki and the forum. In a surprise move by Peter Bralesford. What was the NIMCAV reaction to that when you found out?
Obviously, my government was very happy to hear this because it restores internet access to a ministry which is in dire need of it. The Ministry of Technology of the Democratic Federation is one of its primary goals is the upkeep, improvement, and general maintenance of our Wikipedia articles. I myself do work on it, but I am nowhere near the same skill level as Fred is himself. So, from the point of view of practicality, it's good to see. It was also good to see from the point of view of general fairness. As you know, the Democratic Federation follows a policy of equality in all people, even people with which we don't agree. So to see a new sense of openness for the general community, at least physically, is a good sign.
Finally, is there any last things you want to say on the issue now that it seems to be coming to a close?
I think it's good that this has come to an end finally, because the last 6 months of the year have been spent dealing with this, and it's time we could have spent doing a lot of other things had we not spent time infighting about it in various political and physical wiki controlled spheres. So I think we can go a long way. As I said in my own address, there's a month and a little bit of the summer left for most people. This isn't the time bickering about who is banned because of this reason and that reason. We only have a month of the summer left, and this is our season, as I said, to do most that we can in our time. So let's just get to that and leave the past there.
Right. Thank you for coming along.
My pleasure, Your Majesty.
Right, thank you, Your Excellency. Welcome to current camera.
Thank you.
So I'll begin with the first question, which is, what are your thoughts on the whole banning issue surrounding Herbaya?
Well, it's difficult for me to say because I'm sort of in transition from one belief to another. I agree with the ban and the idea that Mr. Bayer is someone who I personally disagree with, but I believe it takes more energy to continue this debate. It takes more energy to continue this ban, and in that sense, I am against it.
Okay. There have been various opinions about a compromise have been floated, including one by myself, which would impose certain conditions on his access and usage of the wiki. Would that be more of a way to seek a peaceful and diplomatic remedy to the situation?
I believe it could be, yes. The difficulty there, however, would be to have a generally agreed upon administrators, by people who still oppose Mr. Byer's ban, and by those who support his ban as well. I believe it's a fundamental good idea, and it's a very good compromise.
I don't know if you've heard President Mezhansk in his recent statement. I don't know whether you've heard that or not, but if you have,
The address.
yes,
The address.
yes, that's the one.
Yes, I have.
What are your? How would you reply to that?
I would agree that it's sort of dividing this community, and that it is becoming an issue, whereas it shouldn't be an issue. I do disagree that, well, on his statement that we are bullying him. I don't see it as bullying. Rather, I find it more a general discussion and discourse between both sides. I don't believe it's bullying, because if it was bullying, people are being bullied all over. We're adults here. We're not going to sit back and say, oh, you can't do that to me because that's bullying. If that's bullying, then there are many people in this community who are being bullied or otherwise. And what are we going to do to them? Are we going to apologize to them and say that these issues shouldn't be answered? I don't believe that's the correct way of handling this situation.
Of course, a thing that has recently come up in Zealandia is the controversy over Chapter 8, Clause 6 of the Zealandian Constitution, which pretty much bans Mr. Bayer from entering the kingdom or partaking in its politics. I think the technical term used is persona non grata. What are your opinions on that?
I believe it is a largely internal issue for the Kingdom of Zealandia, and it is not really any other nation's issue. Of course, we're all, I'm sure, aware of Sands's former actions and policies on the issue in Zealandia, but we've come to a different policy turn in the means of foreign affairs, and we respect the Zealandian government's and Zealandian states' willingness to not only provide for its own safety, but also to bring up such discussions, to bring up such issues.
You kind of beat me with the bullying issue when you hit it on the head with the other when I asked the other question. So I'll ask, seeing as I've run out of questions, and this is like only 5 minutes, and I've allotted 10 minutes to everybody. Do you have any other thoughts on the whole matter or on the community in general?
I do believe that the community is rather divided over this, and I can see and I can understand why. There's some good micronationalists who are more fixated upon the law, who say that the reason for its banning was not it's not an issue anymore, that it was rather disproven. In that sense of law, I must say that his banning is in fact void. But Mr. Bayer and I, we have disagreed many times, and I generally find him disrespectful to certain cultures and to various beliefs, and I don't believe he's politically correct. So in that sense, I believe that the community should really try its best to get over this and to minimize the effects of this issue in order that we can all focus on what we're here to as micronationalism.
Okay, well, I think that's pretty much petered out quite quickly, actually. um, yeah, I'm just trying to think of things I can ask you now. This is going to be this is the shortest segment on current camera I think we've ever had.
Could you try to speak with them?
So, I don't know if you, of course, Zealandia and Sanders have always had, well, not always. Recently, we've had strained relationships. Very strained.
Yes.
On the issue of that, do you see a vast improvement in Zealando Sanders or Sandom relationships?
Yes, very much so. Ever since the former espionage incident, which was, I must admit, a fault of this government, we have done our best to become non-interventionalist, become neutral. We've started to understand, accept Zealandia, and I believe that the same has happened on Zealandian front. I'm actually very pleased at the current situation of our country's two relations, that even though it has been strained in the past, recently things have become much better and more peaceful, and there's more general dialogue between both governments.
And before we go, finally, an idea was floated in between members of the Zealandian Ministry for State Security, which is basically the micronational version of East Germany Stasi, minus all the spying on internal people. That much. And that was of how would the micronational community react to, say, a micronational version of WikiLeaks?
Ooh. I believe there may be general improvement for it, actually. Maybe. I'm sure people will support it. People will find it very interesting. It's a macronational thing that is taken and turned micronational. So, in that respect, I believe it would be very interesting.
All right. Well, I thank you for your time, Mr. Sogel.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching tonight. We really appreciate your viewing this. Sorry that it took so long. I hope you understand that we just don't have the time to make a bunch of 15-minute ones when we can make an hour video. So thank you for your cooperation in that respect. Alright, so basically all that's left to say is have a good evening and good night.